Salvaged from the quarterback scrap heap, Jeff Garcia now has the Eagles 2 victories removed from the Super Bowl. It's the anniversary of the victory that Joe Namath guaranteed against the Colts. Will Peyton Manning finally deliver a championship to the Colts? And speaking of bitter memories for Colts fans, the team that stole off in the night is coming back tomorrow.
To see that horseshoe and our heritage in another city hurts.
The great divide in Baltimore between the past, the Colts, and the present, the Ravens. Outside the lines right now.
And now, reporting for Outside the Lines, Jeremy Schaap.
In 1990, the New York Giants lost Phil Simms, their all-pro quarterback, to a season-ending injury at a time when the team was 11-3. Simms would lead the NFC that season in quarterback rating and was widely considered the foundation of the Giants' offense. But in came backup Jeff Hostetler, and the Giants ended up winning Super Bowl 25. Clearly, the Eagles are hoping that their Jeff Garcia can emulate Hostetler. As Rachel Nichols reports, he's already emulating a Philly icon.
I think I'm very representative of what this city is all about.
Garcia rolling, firing, touchdown!
I think I'm hard-nosed. I'm down and dirty. I throw everything that I have into it, and I give everything that I have. When people seem to stack everything up against you, I'm going to find a way to overcome it.
An aging athlete beating the odds. Philadelphia has seen this script before. But while Rocky Balboa might be big at the box office, it is Jeff Garcia who has captivated a city, saving both a season and his career.
I think the real perception was that I was getting to the end of my career. I'd either lost a step or lost whatever zip I didn't have previously on my arm. I was even losing more of that.
After calamitous stints in Cleveland and Detroit, the 36-year-old Garcia hardly looked like the quarterback who'd gone to 3 Pro Bowls with San Francisco. Considering retirement, Garcia opted instead to sign as a backup with the Eagles. And then, in Week 11, everything changed.
They're bringing out the car to put him on to take him to the locker room. Not a good sign at all.
What was the perception outside the team of this team's chances after Donovan McNabb went down?
Definitely written off. Definitely a team that was not going to be a playoff team. It was almost as if the wheels were falling off.
Donovan was the leader of this football team, and he brought just that extra zip. And then Jeff Garcia comes in, and he brought that fire. He's a redhead, so he got a little fire to him, and he brought a little of that fire in there, and the guys rallied around him.
Give me an impersonation of what Jeff is like in the locker room just before a game.
All right, come on, guys. We're going to go out here and beat their butts. We're not going to worry about nothing. We're going to go out here and kick their behinds and smash them in the mouth, smash them in the mouth.
Garcia has brought more than just energy. There's also his comfort with offensive coordinator Marty Morningweg, who runs the same system with the Eagles as he did when both he and Garcia were with the 49ers. And then there is Garcia's toughness, as witnessed by Rocky himself in a critical Monday night win over the Panthers.
He got knocked around a little bit, and he bounced back up, which a lot of quarterbacks might not have gotten up on that hit. And he bounced up and said, let's go. And he drove us down and we scored.
And a lot of hits he's taking, he's causing himself by trying to get extra yards and doing all that stuff. But you got to appreciate that, and it's kind of, it's kind of trickling down to everybody else.
The Eagles barreled into the playoffs and pulled off a last-second wild-card win over the Giants. And along the way, a city found a new, aging underdog to rally around.
Philly is a hard-nosed town, a town that loves fiery guys. And when they see Jeff go out there and spike the ball, when they see Jeff running and making first downs, not sliding, going head first, they love that. And the town has really rallied around it just as the players.
Well, we know how the Rocky movie ends. How does the Jeff Garcia movie end?
Well, hopefully we just keep winning, and we'll find out in the end.
When Donovan McNabb blew out his knee in Week 11, the Eagles appeared to be sunk, but with Jeff Garcia at quarterback, they've rarely been better. 5-1 in the regular season, 6-1 including the playoffs. And as well as McNabb was playing, Garcia has been just as effective, if not more so. So will Garcia's Eagles get knocked out as Rocky did in the first film, or will they win their first championship since 1960? We're joined now by Philadelphia sports radio host Rhea Hughes. Rhea, how much of the credit does Jeff Garcia deserve for the Eagles' late season surge?
Well, he deserves a lot of credit just because of all those things that you heard Brian Westbrook, John Runyon discuss, the fiery nature. You know, you mentioned Marty Mornhinweg there. You have to bring up him and Brian Westbrook. Marty changed the offense, started handing the ball a lot more to Brian Westbrook. But what Garcia done is he hasn't made any mistakes. He doesn't, you know, you saw the stat there. He doesn't throw, it's 10, I believe, 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. So he doesn't make any mistakes. His personality has allowed this offense to develop. But it's, you know, it's Marty Mornhinweg, it's Brian Westbrook, and it's Jeff Garcia.
Rhea, everybody loves quarterback controversies, quarterback comparisons as well. Compare what he does running the offense to what Donovan McNabb does running the offense.
I'll tell you what the Eagles offense did, and Andy Reid was running that offense back when Donovan was here. They rely too much on Donovan McNabb to make the big play instead of having a balanced offense. I think this offense could be run with Donovan McNabb. They chose not to. So when Donovan goes down, Marty Mornhinweg had that background with Jeff Garcia, that chemistry, and you had a star in Brian Westbrook who was just dying to get out. So you hand the ball off to him, that opens up the passing game, and they're able to do that. I do think this can be run with Donovan, but they choose to rely on that home run that Donovan's capable of doing instead of running a more balanced offense.
So what does the future hold? Let's presume that Donovan McNabb is ready to come back at the beginning of next season. Jeff Garcia will be a free agent at the end of this season. What do the Eagles have to decide upon? Which quarterback?
I know the Eagles have already talked about they want to bring Jeff Garcia back. It all depends on Donovan McNabb's health, and it really depends on how far Jeff Garcia can take them. I mean, if he takes the Eagles to the Super Bowl, Eagles got a real problem on their hands. If, you know, when Donovan comes back and he's the starter, he throws one interception. This town, you know, is not shy when it comes to expressing their opinions. So they could have a real problem on their hands, but, you know, it's not a bad problem to have.
Certainly not. You mentioned the Philly fans who are, I think it's fair to say, notorious for some of their actions over the years. How much have they embraced Jeff Garcia, and how much flack will the Eagles take if they don't find a way to retain him?
Jeremy, last night he had an appearance. 2,000 people showed up. The lines were out the door. The first guy in line got there 12 hours before Jeff appeared. So that's how much they have embraced this guy.
What did they get for that?
An autograph.
Oh, that's nice.
That was it. So, you know, and the guy who waited 12 hours, it was for his nephew. So imagine what he's like when he actually has kids.
In terms of the game, actually going down there, if they win this game, where will Jeff Garcia rank in the Philly pantheon of sports heroes, at least for a week?
At least for a week, he'll be right up there with Rocky. And what Rachel did in that piece was very good, because Rocky is beloved in this town. And that he'll be right up there with it. I mean, what he's done is pretty impressive.
Does he really represent the city in the way that he seems to think he does?
I think he does. I mean, I'm a born and raised Philadelphian. He's very feisty. He's very fiery. They like that. Donovan is a much more reserved person, and it's been really hard for the city to ever, as successful as he is, to wrap their arms around him. Jeff is very feisty, very wears everything on his sleeve, kind of out there, and the city likes that a lot.
Rhea Hughes, thanks very much for your thoughts.
Anytime, Jeremy.
Speaking of the Eagles, today's poll question is this: what teams will play for the NFC Championship? Will the matchup be Eagles-Bears, Saints-Bears, Seahawks-Eagles, or Seahawks versus Saints? To vote, log on to ESPN.com, select the ESPN drop-down menu, click outside the lines, and on our interactive page, vote in the poll, send us email, and sign up for our daily program alert. We'll share emails and poll results later in the show. But first, we'll update the Barry Bonds amphetamine story. And we will also have an update on Terrell Owens as he undergoes surgery, the latest on his condition. In our centerpiece, the Colts sneaked out of Baltimore 20 years ago, but time does not heal all wounds.
I felt that team was my team. It wasn't Bob Irsay's team. It was my team. Here you had a man that destroyed the legacy of the Baltimore Colts. He just took it away from the city of Baltimore.
Now, though, with nothing more at stake than a berth in the AFC Championship game, the Colts are coming home again.
Nothing is impossible. It's a dirty word, a challenge dismissed with a rip and a shred. Winter X Games 11. It only happens here. January 25th through the 28th, live on ESPN and ABC.
Starting a new garden doesn't have to be backbreaking. Not when you have the Mantis Tiller Cultivator. It does all the hard work for you. The powerful two-cycle engine spins the patented tines deep into the soil. It cuts through the hardest clay and tangled weeds, yet maneuvers nimbly through the tightest spaces. Now get this amazing Mantis at huge factory direct savings. Plus, we'll give you this border edger free. Call now for complete information. 1-800-544-1000.
NBA Friday. The Wizards face the Hornets as Washington hopes that Gilbert Arenas can keep lighting it up. Then, the Rockets take on the Nuggets as McGrady and Iverson shoot it out. NBA Friday on ESPN. Coverage begins at 7:30 tonight.
At this hour, the man who just put the foreign trade deficit another $250 million in the red was ready for his close-up today. David Beckham, formerly of Real Madrid and Manchester United, was introduced as the newest member of the somewhat less storied LA Galaxy.
I think that soccer has got a huge potential. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe in this project. If I didn't believe that I could, make a difference and take soccer to a different level, then I wouldn't be doing this and I wouldn't be signing the contract for 5 years. This is something that I believe in.
He probably believes in all the money, too. Barry Bonds has issued a statement denying that he received amphetamines from teammate Mark Sweeney. The New York Daily News reported Thursday that Bonds tested positive last season for amphetamines and that, when caught, he blamed a supplement Sweeney had given him. Will there be a Roger Clemens redux in the Bronx? Perhaps. Yankees GM Brian Cashman says that he'd be interested in speaking to Clemens if Clemens is interested in returning to New York. Yesterday in Miami, Terrell Owens underwent surgery to report a torn tendon in his right ring finger. The doctor's very optimistic, Owens said. I'm happy with the news he gave me that I will return to 100%. Chiefs tight end Tony Gonzalez probably headed for the Hall of Fame, but for now he's staying in Kansas City. Friday he agreed to a 5-year contract extension. Terms have not been disclosed. Wide receiver Chris Henry of the Bengals arrested 4 times in 7 months in 3 different states. Now his attorneys are trying to reach plea agreements on the 2 outstanding cases. Henry's hoping to avoid being suspended for the 2nd time by the NFL. Michelle Wie continuing to struggle playing on the men's tour. Thursday in Hawaii, she shot 8 over par 78 at the Sony Open. She stands in next to last place and 15 strokes behind first-round leader Luke Donald. And from our returning to the scene of the crime department, Tour de France winner Floyd Landis has been called to a hearing by the French anti-doping agency to determine whether he can race again in France. Landis hasn't announced if he'll attend the hearing. When we return, few teams in the annals of American sport forged a deeper bond with their city and their fans than the Baltimore Colts.
That was my father's football team, my uncle's football team. My mother baked cakes for Johnny Unitas, that kind of thing. And that's why now they want a little payback. You stole our team. There's still a grudge. We want some payback.
Payback could come tomorrow when the Colts play in the city that once loved them.
The dawn of a new season. Will champions still rule? Is there an upset in the making? A star ready to be born? The greatest dramas in tennis unfold. The Australian Open. Coverage begins Sunday at 7 on ESPN2.
Do the mojito with the refreshingly cool taste of the Bacardi Mojito.
Quentin Tarantino presents The Protector on DVD. The best all-out action film this year. Tony Jaa is The Protector. Rented on DVD Tuesday, exclusively at Blockbuster.
NBA Friday. The Wizards face the Hornets as Washington hopes that Gilbert Arenas can keep lighting it up. Then, the Rockets take on the Nuggets as McGrady and Iverson shoot it out. NBA Friday on ESPN. Coverage begins at 7:30 tonight.
Big Monday.
You can't stop.
Super Tuesday.
Up in the air. Oh, my goodness.
ACC Wednesday.
The Dokies are on fire.
All season long beginning at 7 on ESPN.
With my credit.
Are you in the market for a used car, truck, or SUV at a reasonable price? Then cruise on into Auto Sale. With 2 convenient locations, we have over 150 vehicles to choose from. Since most of our inventory is priced under $20,000, you are sure to drive away with the vehicle you want. No credit, bad credit, first-time buyer? We will get you financed. For great used vehicles with low mileage, low prices, and a no-pressure sales approach, visit Auto Sale.
Tonight on It's Your Call with Lynn Doyle. Is 50 really the new 30? Find out how people over 50 today are different from previous generations. Tonight at 9 on CN8, the Comcast Network.
Comcast Digital Cable comes with On Demand, a library of movies and shows ready to watch when you are, most of which are free. The Comcast Triple Play, internet, phone, and cable, together on one bill from one company. Call today.
Years ago today, the New York Jets of the American Football League upset the Baltimore Colts of the National Football League in Super Bowl III, making Joe Namath a handicapping legend and ruining what had been a splendid season for the Baltimore Colts. That was a dark day for the Colts. It was yet darker when the team fled to Indianapolis in 1984. For the fans whose resentment still festers, tomorrow's game between their old team, the Colts, and their new team, the Ravens, offers a chance to settle an old score. Wendy Nix has more.
It's a day the city of Baltimore will never forget. On a March morning 23 years ago, the Colts left town under the cover of darkness and headed for Indianapolis.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my understanding that the Colts are on their way to Indianapolis.
While Indianapolis celebrated, Baltimore began to mourn.
They took everything. Everything's gone.
I remember my father waking me up in the middle of the night and said, you know, he heard it on the radio, and he said, you can't believe this, and he has tears coming down his eyes, and we were just devastated. I mean, the thing I remember most was our mayor, Donald Schaefer, literally crying on the TV that day.
I'm trying to retain what little dignity I have left in this matter. And second, if the Colts had to sneak out of town at night, it degrades a great tradition of the city in football.
Despite multiple promises by then-owner Bob Irsay,
I have not any intention of moving the damn team. If I did, I would tell you about it, okay?
the Colts were gone, leaving their fans angry and embittered.
Hatred, sadness, disappointment. I felt that that team was my team. It wasn't Bob Irsay's team. It was my team. And here you had a man that destroyed the legacy of the Baltimore Colts.
It sort of draws me up again today when I think about it. Very close to him, enjoyed the games, was a season ticket holder just like I am now with the Ravens, but it was heartbreaking. I remember it was heartbreaking.
John Zeman is the president of the Marching Ravens, the current Baltimore band that evolved from the Colts marching band. Zeman, a former drummer, has been with the organization for over 40 years.
When we lost the Colts, the sun came up the next day. Nobody died, but our heart was torn out. We lost a major part of our community. And the band members pledged, each and every one of them, that we will stay together and we will bring a professional football team back to Baltimore.
United gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores!
Nostalgic for a time as much as a team, Colts lifers recall the days before free agency and exorbitant salaries. A time when Baltimore was as much a home to the Colts and its stars as it was to the fans who loved them. Tom Maddie played in Baltimore for 11 seasons.
We've stayed here and played here. We lived here, we died here, our children are here, we worked here in the off season. It was a complete, complete package.
Baltimore is a tough old blue-collar town, and the Colts were a tough old blue-collar football franchise for many years.
Dan Rodericks is a Metro columnist for the Baltimore Sun.
People remember that time, they're sentimental for that time, and it's a very strong feeling. That was my father's football team, my uncle's football team. My mother baked cakes for Johnny Unitas, that kind of thing. And that's why now they want a little payback. You stole our team. There's still a grudge. We want some payback.
The city is now Raven crazy. Time, they say, heals all wounds. Why then do Baltimore Colts fans seem so reluctant to let bygones be bygones?
To see that horseshoe and our heritage in another city hurts. The team, the players, they can move. That didn't hurt us, but it was our heritage that was ripped from us. And now we don't even get credit for it in the Football Hall of Fame.
You go back and the Hall of Famers are called Indianapolis Colts. I am not an Indianapolis Colt. I am a Baltimore Colt. They have their own things that they have. I don't want to be part of their history because I never played in that town.
It's like New Zealand celebrating the 4th of July. The Declaration of Independence wasn't signed there. Why would they celebrate that event?
Even though he was only 8 years old when the team left town, Paul Steisley loves the Baltimore Colts. It's a passion he inherited from his dad.
Johnny Unitas did not play in Indianapolis. Lenny Moore didn't do. The 58 championship was not an Indianapolis victory. It doesn't seem like they have the right to that heritage.
It's sick. They are people. They're, in essence, people, the blood of Baltimore. And to take that and to keep that is, I hate to use the word sick, but it's just sick to me. Why would they want to keep that?
Peyton, pump fake, throws the back of the end zone, touchdown, Reggie Wade!
Saturday when I go to the game, even though I'm going to root for the Ravens, and scream and let my hell out, I'm going to see them Colt helmets, and, it's just going to, like a knife, a little bit into my heart because I'm saying that should have been our helmets.
It hurts.
It hurts.
Among those experiencing mixed emotions tomorrow might be William Hudnut. He was the mayor of Indianapolis who helped spearhead the effort to lure the Colts away from Baltimore. But for the last 10 years, Hudnut's been living in Maryland, even serving as the mayor of his municipality. With the Colts in town for tomorrow's game, nostalgia is the order of the day in Baltimore, and no one can appreciate the nature of all the emotions surrounding this game than the man who joins us now. Jerry Sandusky is the radio voice of the Baltimore Ravens, and his father, John, was a Baltimore Colts assistant coach from 1958 to 1972. Jerry, what does this game tomorrow mean to all those Ravens fans who were once Colts fans?
It's a wild intersection where emotions are destined to collide in ways nobody can ever predict when they see the blue Colt horseshoe come back to town. And Jeremy, earlier in the show, you used the phrase, the Colts are coming back home. They're not coming back home. This is the home of the Baltimore Colts. It was never the home of the Indianapolis Colts. This is sacred ground for names like John Unitas, for names like John Mackey, for my dad, John Sandusky, and for all of the people who were part of that Baltimore Colt organization. And the biggest emotion we feel when the Colts come to Baltimore is that the Baltimore Colts and all of the great men who were part of that organization don't have a final resting place.
Jerry, even more than, say, the Buffalo fans and their Bills, or Dallas fans and their Cowboys, or Broncos fans and their team, it seems that the relationship between Colts fans and Baltimore and their team has been memorialized. Maybe it's Barry Levinson and the movies that he made, among other factors. What was so special about that relationship?
There was no line between fan and family. If you were part of the Colts, whether you worked for the Colts, whether you rooted for the Colts, you were included in that family. Jeremy, on the day I was born, my father was on the practice field. He was the offensive line coach for the Colts. And June McCafferty, the wife of Don McCafferty, the receivers coach, went out onto the practice field and said, "You have another offensive lineman." And the owner of the Colts sent home a sterling silver cup with the Baltimore Colts insignia etched into the side. I still have that cup. And everybody in Baltimore who grew up watching the Colts as a part of the Colts has a story like that. It wasn't the separation of you're in the skybox, you're in the club seat, you're in the upper deck. You were either part of the Colts or you were part of something entirely different in another town. There was no degrees of loving the Colts. You were just part of it all.
What was your feeling that morning when you woke up 23 years ago to find that they had left in the middle of the night for Indianapolis?
I felt the way I would imagine people felt in ancient times when they learned the world was not flat. All of a sudden, everything you held as true north, everything you held as a guarantee was completely askew. And I wondered for a while, how can the NFL move forward if something as sacred as the Baltimore Colts can't exist anymore? Well, obviously it did move forward, but those of us who were part of that Baltimore Colt past still feel a little imbalanced when we see the Colt uniform.
We have only a few seconds remaining, Jerry, and you work for the Ravens in a manner of speaking. Have they fully replaced the Colts in the hearts and minds of Baltimore sports fans?
They've done something more important. You can never replace a first love. But what the Ravens have done for Baltimore is they have given the next generation of football fans that same type of passion, the team to love, the experience to share, the championships to hope for, and the magnet that draws an entire town together. Because, Jeremy, when it's the playoffs and it's 4th and 1 and the game's on the line, the 70,000 people who gather with seconds left on the clock don't look to their left and think, is that guy a Democrat or a Republican? Is that guy to my right a Jew or a Catholic? They just think it's us against the world, and that's the beauty of football in Baltimore.
It will make tomorrow very interesting indeed. Jerry Sandusky, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
We are mere minutes away from NFL Live. Trey Wingo and the gang preview all the weekend's playoff games.
Inspired by a true story of the world's most terrifying serial killer. He has claimed over 300 victims. He is real, but he is not human.
I shot him again and again. He refused to die.
Now, in a remote corner of Africa,